بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. We are here to speak about Hijrah in Al-Islam. The topic that was chosen and selected in itself is a blessing, and bi'idhnillah is a means of tawfiq, success from Allah the Mighty and the Sublime, divine inspiration, to pick such a comprehensive and paramount topic. Many lectures today, many conferences, many classes, they're given on things, we won't say that are bad or not important for the Muslims, but they're not as healthy as a topic such as Hijrah. Hijrah is very, very, very important concept to the Muslim, as we're going to read inshallah. Very important. Hijrah, in my humble opinion, I would say is a sister or twin of jihad. It's a topic that every single Muslim must know about and practice on one level or another. On one level or another. There isn't a Muslim, man or woman, strong or weak, except that there is some type of jihad that you must perform. Jihad against your nafs, jihad against shaitan, jihad against physical enemies, whatever type of jihad. Every single Muslim by nature is a warrior. Whether you like it or not, whether the media likes it or not. Everybody understand this? The Muslim by nature is one who struggles and fights. And this dunya, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is the jail and the prison of the believer. And what do you have to do when you're in jail, in prison? You always watch your back. You're always on guard. You're always prepared. You're always ready for something to happen. Is this not the case? You make a weapon out of something that isn't normally a weapon. You prepare yourself for something that's unexpected. It's a jail. It's a prison. So the concept of the dunya, the concept of the hayat dunya in the Muslim is always a concept of your boots need to be laced up. Guard up, hands up, that you're fighting in this dunya to avoid shaitan, to stay away from sin, to stay away from disobedience. And the moment you lose that fighting spirit, and the moment you say, no, that's not true, brother, you can't say that, then you've lost the battle already. Everybody understand this? You've lost the fight already. Keep your guard up at all times. So Hijrah is something that every single Muslim must make one way or another, whether it's physical hijrah or metaphysical hijrah. Whether it's leaving one land and going to another, leaving one country, going to another country, migrating, or whether it is the most important aspect of the hijrah that we're going to speak about, that is the spiritual hijrah. The spiritual hijrah. Leaving something and going to something else. Leaving a relationship, leaving a friendship, leaving a sin, leaving a stagnant level of worship, and going to the next level of worship. Everybody understand these words? Everybody understand these words? This is something that every single Muslim must do. And if you say other than that, and if you take an approach other than that, then once again, you've lost the battle as well. Everybody understand these things? These are basic things that every single Muslim must have. So therefore, speaking about al-jihad, speaking about al-hijrah, this is something which is considered to be jami'. This is a comprehensive topic. Everybody understand this? What's the first hadith in 40 hadith? What's the first narration? Intentions. Right. What does it say in that hadith on intentions? You think I know we put that hadith first by accident just because of intentions? No. It's deeper than that. It's more profound than that. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Those whose immigration or migration was for Allah and His Messenger, whatever meaning that is. And the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke and he made those words, and Allah told him, Jibreel told him, he knew that there will be Muslims who will come way after his companions. Everybody understand this? It states in the authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا هجرة بعد الفتح ولكن جهاد منية. He says there's no hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. There's no hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. However, there remains jihad and there remains intention. And what's meant by La Hijrata Ba'da al-Fath, there is no hijrah that's mandatory from Mecca to Medina. There is no mandatory hijrah from Mecca to Medina. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was wajib For those who had the ability to leave, they had to go. There was no choice, there was no option. Leave your property, your family, go and support the Rasul in Medina. After Mecca was conquered, and that's a concept in itself, was there fighting in Mecca or not? But we say for sure, everyone can agree that Mecca was spiritually conquered. It was what? It was spiritually conquered. Whether there was the raising of a sword or not. But Mecca was spiritually conquered. The idols were smashed. The kuffar had no more power, no more authority. And it also was doubt on Islam as well. So the Prophet says there's no hijrah to be made from Mecca to Medina. Everybody understand this? However, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and he told us that Islam is going to spread. And the dominion of my nation will spread. He knew that there would be Muslims that would come in the 21st century that lived far, 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 far from the lands of the Muslims. Everybody understand this? So the concept of hijrah in Islam is something that is a staple concept. This is a main course meal. It's nothing that's a salad or a soup or dessert. This is something that's going to fill you up. So that in itself, in the next subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a major means of a tawfiq, for which the brothers and sisters here who run the masjid and coordinate the events here at the masjid, Sheikh Nazir, Sheikh Salim, Sheikh Adib, and the other brothers whose names I don't know, and sisters whose names I don't know, that is something that you should you should be grateful for. You should be what? You should be grateful for. You should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that, because that's tawfiq. And every lecture doesn't have that same divine aroma to it. Everybody understand this? We just came from a place where we're talking about this and that, so on and so forth. So this is a blessing that you need to be thankful for Allah. Thankful to Allah for. Khairan inshallah. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says, إِذِ الْهِجْرَةُ نَوْعَانِ أو هجرتان هجرة بالجسم من بلد إلى بلد وهذه أحكامها معلومة وليس المراد الكلام فيها. والهجرة الثانية الهجرة بالقلب إلى الله ورسوله وهذه هي المقصودة هنا. وهذه الهجرة هي الهجرة الحقيقية وهي الأصل. وهجرة الجسد تابعة لها ممدنا الهجرة ومنتهاها. This is مبدأ الهجرة ومنتهاها. He says, and this is because hijrah is of two types. Pay close attention. Hijrah is of two types. The first is physical hijrah. Hijrah with one's body from one country to the next. And the rulings of this type of hijrah, he says, they're well known. They've been explained, they've been expounded upon, etc. In other words, let's ask the question, what does the word hijrah mean linguistically? As we always try to do, when we break down the word hijrah, Abu Azhar, what would you say the word hijrah means?
Movement.
Linguistically, you say movement? What would you say, Sheikh? Migration. What would you say, Sheikh Abu Azhar?
Movement.
Movement.
Whether it's physical movement or something with heart.
Tayyip. Anybody else? What would you say the word hijrah means linguistically? Where does it come from? What's the root word of hijrah? What's the root word? You studied sarf. What's the root word of the word hijrah? We have a ha, a jim, a ra, and a ta. Hijratun. How would you look up that word in the dictionary? Not the mawrid, but the handswear. We say that every word in the Arabic language has one or two origins. Every word. Either 3 letters or 4 letters. No matter how long someone's name is, no matter how long and complex a vowel or a verb is, it is originally deduced from what? 3 to 4 letters. Everybody understand this? 3 to 4 letters. So the word hijrah has how many letters in it? Ha, jim, ra, ta. Can we originally find the word hijrah as a verb? No, it's not a verb. So it has to come from a verb that either had 3 or what? 4 letters. What do you say those 3 or 4 letters are? Huh? Hajara. Hajara. Ha, jim, ra. Hajara. So when we look up the word hajra in the Arabic dictionaries, we find that it means at-tark. Hajr doesn't mean movement. It doesn't mean immigration. We're talking about the bare, organic, raw meaning. No additives. They say raw sugar. It's not bleached. It's not colored. It's raw cane sugar. The original meaning of the word means at-tark. Class is finished. No lecture. Let's eat. That linguistically is what? Hijrah. Taraktu. I've left something off. I've abandoned something. I quit something. That's what the word hijrah what? Linguistically means. In other words, if you said to a Christian who was from Jordan, or a Jewish man who was from Yemen, or an atheist who was from Saudi Arabia, but they had studied the traditional classic Arabic language, you said, Hajara Zaydun Bakran. That Zayd made Hajara of Bakr. Would that man understand you or not? But he's not a Muslim. How would he understand you? There you go. The pure original meaning of the word Hajara means tark. Yani tarakahu. That Zayd left off Bakr. Everybody understand this? So the word hijrah linguistically means to leave something alone. And this is important, this is crucial in understanding the Islamic sense. Everybody got this? So the word hijrah comes from what letters? What did we say? How many? Hajara. Not hajara. Hajara. A soft ha. Hajara. Hajara is a different meaning. Totally different. Hajara means he did what? Took. Everybody got this? As far as the Islamic sense, then it is al-intiqalu min halin ila halin ahsan. We say in brief, hijrah legislatively means is to leave off something and to go from one station to one that is better. To go to that which is best. Everybody understand this? Not movement, which is included in it. Not migration, as we just said, because it may not be physical hijrah. I may stop smoking cigarettes. And that is my hijrah. My quitting, my cigarette addiction is my what? Hijrah. I've left off the cigarettes and now I don't smoke anymore, so automatically went to a what? Higher station. Everybody understand this? Everybody got this? Or the word hijrah could mean al-intiqalu min balad al-kufri wa tughyan ila balad al-islam. Another meaning is to go from the land of oppression and tyranny, the land of disbelief, to the land of Islam, to the land of justice. And that is the physical what? Hijrah. Or we may say the definition I gave you. I may leave one city and go to the next. I may leave one non-Muslim country and go to another non-Muslim country that is better. Such as the companions who left Mecca and they went to Abyssinia. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? Such as those who left Mecca, they didn't go to Medina first. Najashi at that time was still a Christian. Ethiopia, like it is today, was a major center for Christianity. But Najashi, rahimahullah wa radiya anhu, he was a righteous man and he was a God-fearing man. He didn't oppress people. And he said that the Muslims are allowed to stay in my country, no one will harm them. And he rejected Abu Sufyan and he rejected the mushrikeen that tried to get them to come back. He rejected them. He says, you're not going to do anything to them. Everybody understand this? So this is all the concept of what? Hijrah. And it's crucial when you want to understand a term, let alone a concept, let alone a practice, is that you have to understand what? The original meaning of it. Everybody got this? What is the original meaning of the word? Everybody clear on this? So that's what the word hijrah, legislatively, linguistically, and what? Legislatively means. Everybody got this? The next point is the types of hijrah. Who can give me a type of hijrah? A type of hijrah. Or is hijrah all the same? Who can give me a type? Spiritual hijrah. What else? Physical hijrah. What else? Mental hijrah. Naam. Khair inshallah. In other words, the first type of hijrah, and as I said before and I'll say it again, it's very important to make a comparison. Whenever you're trying to learn something in Islam or anything else, you should always compare it to what you already know and branch off what you already know, which further solidifies that information and it makes it easier for you to grasp it. And we spoke on this message here about jihad, right? Some time ago, so we spoke about what? Jihad. The word jihad has different types and also different rulings. Everybody understand this? Sometimes jihad is wajib, sometimes it's recommended, sometimes it's haram, sometimes it's disliked. Sometimes jihad is physical, sometimes it's financial with economics, and sometimes it's all what? Spiritual. Or sometimes jihad is scholastic, writing, refuting, defending Islam, pushing the doubts away from the deen. That is without a doubt also a major type of jihad. Everybody understand this? And the same applies to hijrah. However, whenever the word is mentioned, hijrah, or the muhajirin, or alladhina lam yuhajiru, then it's speaking about what? What's the asl of hijrah?
Leaving something.
La, the Islamic asl, not the linguistic asl now. What's the Islamic asl of hijrah?
From one place to another. One country.
Yeah.
One station to another.
Physical hijrah from the lands of the non-Muslims to the lands of the Muslims. Whenever the word hijrah is depicted, that's what we mean. And whenever it is a specification, a detail, a restriction, then it's talking about the other types of what? Hijrah. Everybody with me on this? Everybody with me on this? One of the Prophet ﷺ says, someone who fights in Allah's cause, al-mujahid fi sabilillah. It's originally speaking about what? Jihad al-nafs, jihad al-shaitan. It's talking about fighting non-Muslims. Everybody understand this? That's what it's talking about. Everybody clear? Whenever the word hijrah is used, muhajir, then it's talking about what? Physical hijrah. From Mecca to Medina. Everybody understand this? So this is the first concept of al-hijrah. Now, there are many hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ that deal with the concept of hijrah after the Prophet ﷺ. We know during the time of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, the objectives of hijrah were the following. Number one was to run away from the physical oppression and tyranny of the mushrikeen. Number two was to increase the numbers of the Muslims, the population of the Muslims, the armies of the Muslims, the financial state of the Muslims, to physically make more Muslims. And number three, or even before that, was to physically help and support the Messenger of Allah ﷺ in Medina. Everybody understand this? These were the main objectives and goals of the hijrah during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, we know that the companions, they went to Abyssinia twice. They left Mecca and they went to Africa, what? 2 times before they went to Medina. And the only reason why they went to Abyssinia twice was for what? The first reason, to run away from the oppression, to practice Allah and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in safety and in peace. And we know that when you read Surah Al-Kahf, the main reason why it's called Surah Al-Kahf is about what? Hijrah. What type of hijrah? Physical and spiritual. Why did they leave their town? Why did they leave their people? Why did they go into the cave? They were, yes, to keep themselves away from the fitna, from shirk. They physically left the mushrikeen and they went somewhere else. So that in itself is a type of what? Type of what? That's a hijrah in itself. Everybody clear on this? It was a physical hijrah and this also was a spiritual what? Hijrah. Everybody clear on this? And they were patient upon what Allah had decreed upon them. Everybody clear on this? So that is the concept of what? Hijrah. Of leaving one place. Or let's say, mathalan, the children of Israel. They left where? Where did they leave? They left Egypt and they traveled to? Why did they leave Egypt? They were being oppressed by Pharaoh. So that was also a type of hijrah. Everybody understand this? So a Muslim is to physically leave a place when you cannot practice your religion. And what's meant by practicing your religion is not just you having a masjid in a center. It's not just by, as the brother said today, having Mercedes-Benz and BMWs in the parking lot and being a doctor. No. What's meant is by practicing the religion with pride and honor. If you cannot hold your head high as a Muslim and pray in comfort and take, alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim, yes, then possibly you have to leave that place. That's where you have to hold your head down and hide your name and change your name and say hello, even though it's obviously that you're Muslim because of your ethnic background. Let's say, for example, who are you fooling? Who are you trying to hide from, Yahi? That's unfortunate, as many Muslims do. Unfortunate. In other words, if someone says, I'm from West Africa, I can clearly see that you're from West Africa. No matter what you call yourself, no matter what you wear, it's obvious that you're from West Africa. Ivory Coast. You're from Burkina Faso. It's one way or another, you're from a West African country. You may be a Christian, but that's a very what? Slim possibility. Everybody understand this concept? Or I'm from India or Pakistan or whatever the case may be. There are Christians, there are people who are Hindus, Buddhists, but in most cases we say this person is what? He's Muslim. So it's bad enough that you're trying to hide and you're trying to act like you're not a Muslim. That's bad enough in itself. But the concept, is it even permissible to remain in a place in which you're afraid to practice your deen? So the first concept is that if you cannot practice your religion And if you cannot practice your religion with pride and honor, then that is one reason behind making hijrah. The next reason behind making physical hijrah is that you can practice your deen, but it's a fitna upon you. It's a fitna. I cannot tolerate being around non-Muslims. I have a weakness with alcohol, or with drugs, or with fornication, women, music, this, that. It's a fitna. I fear that my children may grow up and be Christian because they hear the church bells on Sunday and they want to celebrate Christmas. Why can't we celebrate Halloween, Abby? Why can't we have Valentine's Day in school? In school, public school or Islamic school, unfortunately. Public school or Islamic school. This is a reality. So somebody, he may say, I can no longer live in New York City. I can practice my deen. There's masjid Ansar, but for me personally, it's a what? It's a fitna. It's too much fitna here in New York City. Or I accepted Islam, and before Islam, I was involved in the streets. Or I was a basketball player, or musician, or whatever you used to do, and that dunya is pulling you. It's calling you. Your old friends, you have so much respect, so much clout. From before the days of Islam, when they see you, they give you respect. And they say, you know, you can do the same thing. It's still yours. People are still afraid of you. Or people still respect you, they still love you. It's easy to do what you can do. And that's a fitna, the temptation. I used to be a kafir. I used to do this to people. People used to be scared of me walk down the street. I need to get out of this place. There's also a reason of what? Of hijrah. Everybody understand this? A third reason of physical hijrah is not fear of fitna, but just the sheer improvement of the quality of your Islamic life. Let alone other worldly things, but just the Islamic life. If I go and I move to Turkey, my children can study the Quran, my wife can wear the hijab without being harassed, without people pulling her over, asking her this, why are you dressed like this? My sons can do this, my girls can do that, so on and so forth. Things are established in Saudi Arabia. Women can do things, women can go to places, women can go to the gym. Let's say she doesn't want to work out in her house. She wants to go to the gym, she wants to be fit. She wants to go to a gym which is a woman's gym. You understand the concept we're trying to get to? It's not a fitna, huh? You can practice your deen in America, but you wish to improve the quality of your Islamic what? Islamic life. Everybody got this? Just like a person wants to leave the city and go to the suburbs because it's healthier. My children can run around. I have a lawn. I have a drive-thru. I have a garage. I have this. I'm not trapped up in a rat race in New York City, stuck in traffic. That's unhealthy. Everybody understand this? So a reason for making hijrah, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't practice the deen. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fitna for you to practice your deen, but you just want a better what? A better what? Huh? A better Islamic life. Make sense? Everybody got this? And a fourth reason may be for you to go and to support and to increase the physical numbers of the believers. And that's better, without a doubt. And there's several hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ warned us from mixing with the mushrikeen. He warned us from aligning ourselves with the mushrikeen, even if it's just physically. Even if it's just physically. Even if it's not spiritually. I'm Muslim, he's not. He knows I'm a Muslim. I don't agree with what he says. I don't believe in that. But you're physically with him. You work with the mushrik. You go to the restaurant, you eat from the hands of the mushrik. You go to the hospital, it's the mushrik giving you a needle. Not saying that these things are haram. Everybody understand this? But the concept is that everything that you do is directly centered around what? Kufr and mushrikeen. Kufr and kafirin. Shirk and mushrikeen. Everybody understand this? And there are hadith that give us a severe warning with regards to this. Everybody, this makes sense so far? Before we go any further. Everybody clear on this? These are some of the main objectives of hijrah. So let's ask the question now. If a Muslim can practice his or her Islam in New York City, and it's not a major fitna for them, it's fitna here and there, it's not a major fitna, and there is some quality in the Islamic life, my children study the Quran, I go to the masjid, I help out, I do this, is it obligatory to leave New York City and go travel to overseas and live overseas? Or is it just recommended? Recommended.
When you said if you could increase Muslim population, then that's
anybody else? Right. We say that there are two main views of the people of knowledge on this issue. Take the fight, the two main views. The first view is that leaving the lands of the non-Muslims is mandatory, unconditionally. And that is haram, unlawful for a Muslim to live in the lands of the kuffar, even if they can practice their religion. Everybody understand this? even if it isn't too much of a fitna for them, they say that it is unlawful for you to physically reside among non-Muslims. This is the first view of the people of knowledge. And they base this view, as I said, off of many hadiths. From them is the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, Al-Muslimu wal-Mushriku la tatra'a naruhuma, aw kama qila. Hadith says, a Muslim should not see the campfire of the mushrik. The Muslim should not see the campfire of the mushrik. In other words, this hadith tells us that it is unlawful and it's wrong for a Muslim and a non-Muslim to be in relative what? Closeness. And if you've ever been to the desert, the actual desert with no buildings around you, you can see very what? Very far. You can see the tiny, small speck, silhouette. You can see a mirage, look like water in the sand. You can see somebody driving, riding, traveling at a far, far distance. So this hadith tells us that a Muslim should never see the camp of the mushrik. Everybody understand this hadith? In other words, Muslims should be far away. And how can, now let's ask ourselves a question. How can this hadith be possibly implemented if the mushrik is your neighbor or your landlord? Your boss is a mushrik. Your employee is a mushrik. You have a construction company and your laborers are all mushrikun or kuffar, Christians, whatever the case may be. Everybody understand this? This is one proof that they use. Another proof that they use is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, La yujami'ul muslimul mushrik. That a Muslim should not socialize with a mushrik. Jami', yani he should be not in excessive physical contact with mushrik. A third hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, La ya'kul ta'amaka illa taqiyun. It says, La tusahib illa mu'minan, wa la ya'kul ta'amaka illa taqiyun. Never accompany a person unless they are righteous. And no one should eat your food unless he is a believer. So to say, if you live in the lands of the non-Muslims, how often do non-believers eat your food? On a daily basis, some of us. Everybody understand this? And there are many, many other proofs and evidences that they use to prove this view. Let alone the concept of a Muslim being affected by non-Muslims. As we see today, Muslim youth and Muslim elders as well. Muslim women, Muslim children. Your name is Ali. Your name is Ahmed and Abdullah and this and that. And you give your son an Islamic name, but he doesn't look like a Muslim. He doesn't dress like a Muslim. He doesn't talk like a Muslim. He doesn't like hanging out with Muslims. When he comes to the masjid, he's bored and tired. He likes to hang out. He has a girlfriend, cell phones, this, that, so on and so forth. There lies no doubt that the non-Muslims, they may say, you guys from Guyana, it's too hard for us to take Islam out of your hearts. You've had generations of Muslims. You're not the best Muslims. You're not perfect Muslims. But for us to remove Allah from your hearts is very, very, very difficult. You guys are too stubborn, old, set in your ways. However, your children, we may have the possibility of getting them to be non-Muslims. Or maybe we can't get them to be non-Muslims, but at least we can poison their minds. Let alone physically poison them. We can poison them. We can get them, we give them a taste of our lifestyle, a taste of our culture, a taste of our holidays, how much fun it is to go out to a club, how much fun it is to have a girlfriend. What do you mean get married? When do you want to get married? You have to wait until you have a job and a house and a degree. Your parents are going to pick the girl. You don't like the way she looks. She's ugly. She's fat. She's this. She's that. So on and so forth. Get a girlfriend. This is reality. They send these things into the minds of the Muslim children. And most Muslim children, or we say at least many of them, they are, no doubt, they're affected by these views. So some of these ulama, they say, if you can practice your deen, and if it's not a fitna for you, they say then your children won't be what? Your children are not going to be safe from these hooks. Everybody clear on this? Let alone the concept of al-wala wal-bara, loving and hating. And Nafis, I think we've seen today the effects of that. Of the excessive mixing with non-Muslims and how it totally kills the concept of wala wal-bara. There is no hating non-Muslims. There is no such thing as a kafir. A kafir is someone who rejects faith, the brother told me. As for a Jew or Christian, they're not faith rejectors. This doesn't come from when you live in a Muslim country. Your attitude towards a non-Muslim doesn't mean you oppress a non-Muslim. Doesn't mean that you are disrespectful and rude to a non-Muslim. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that you just killed him. No, we're not talking about none of that nonsense. But just the concept of spiritual love and spiritual hate. is not going to be the same when you live in the lands of Muslims, and when you live, you're fed, you're nourished, you're paid, you're funded by non-Muslims. It is not the same. The brother said, we have doctors, we have degrees. He says if the Jews, this is what the brother said, he said if all the Jews hate the Muslims, then why are there so many Muslim doctors? Everybody understand this point? Where is his wala and bara at?
I don't know. He's missing.
See the point I'm trying to get to, guys? So these ulama, they say it's very dangerous to live in the lands of what? The non-Muslims. Now let's move on to the next view. The next view is they say, is that hijrah is not obligatory. The physical hijrah is not mandatory as long as you can practice your religion, as long as no one stops you, no one hinders you from making salah, from making hajj, from giving zakat, from fasting Ramadan, from wearing hijab, from eating halal foods. They say if no one stops you from these things, then you do not have to physically make hijrah. And they say hijrah could be recommended, or they may say it may be best to stay in America or Australia or Canada to spread and propagate Islam. Everybody understand this? And the proof and the evidence that they use is that the Prophet ﷺ allowed the companions to go to Abyssinia. He allowed them to travel to the African continent, which at that time was not a what? It wasn't an Islamic state. It wasn't a Muslim country. The Prophet ﷺ knew that the king of Abyssinia was a Christian man. Yet and still he allowed them to go and stay there because they could practice their deen. And the first group of scholars, they say, no, that's incorrect because that was in the beginning of legislation. The Muslims didn't even pray at that time, let alone fast, let alone zakat, let alone hajj, let alone hijab. They said that the legislation came what? Came afterwards. Everybody clear on this? Another proof or another evidence that they use is that they say the intended objective of hijrah is to leave off fitna. It's to leave off tyranny and oppression. And they say as long as you can practice the deen, you don't have to necessarily leave. Or some of them, they may say that the Muslim lands, the Middle East, or the African continent, or the Far East, or Indochina, they say these places are so corrupt, so ravaged with corruption, bribery, prostitution, interest, so on and so forth. They say it's easier to practice Islam in America than it is in the Middle East. This is what they say. Is it right? Is it wrong? That's not my job. I'm just giving you what they say. Everybody clear on this? So these are, or this is a very brief presentation of the two main views of the ulama of Islam with regards to hijrah. You pick what you feel is best. You pick what you feel is the strongest. But this is what they say, and this is why they say it. Now, that's the physical hijrah. Let's move on to the spiritual hijrah. The hijrah that every single Muslim must do, no matter what the case may be. And before we go that far, we say, the ulama who say that it's haram to live in the lands of non-Muslims, they make a few exceptions. The first exception is for a group of righteous, knowledgeable Muslims to remain in the lands of the non-Muslims for the purpose of propagating Islam. Everybody understand this? For the purpose of what? Propagating Islam. Dawah through speech, and most importantly, dawah through what? Actions. But they say these Muslims must be knowledgeable, they must be righteous, and they must be armed with ilm, armed with knowledge. Everybody understand this? In other words, lest they fall victim of the doubts of the non-Muslims. In other words, lest they fall victim of the lusts and the desires in the lands of the non-Muslims. Everybody understand this? They say that if there is some ulama or du'at or imams that can live in the non-Muslim lands, then that's what they should do. But every single layman, 9 to 5 Muslim, Tom, Dick, and Harry, they say no, they're not to live among the lands of the Muslims. Everybody clear on these 2 points? Everybody clear on these 2 views? What do you think makes the most sense, Sheikh? All the way in the back. What do you think, Sheikh? Which view you think? What do you feel is best yourself?
The first one, if you have the knowledge to stay.
For the average 9 to 5 Muslim, those who don't have a great deal of knowledge, you think hijrah is obligatory or recommended?
Again, it's a choice.
So recommended, you would say.
The individual makes the choice whether it's recommended or obligatory.
Fine, khair, inshallah. Sure.
Yeah. If you take the first view with compulsory to leave, you have 7 million or 10 million Muslims in America, Canada, whatever it is. I mean, first of all, which country is going to accept them if they want to go a Muslim land? Saudi Arabia, which is some people consider as the most Islamic of all the Muslim lands, they don't want foreigners to go in there. They give it some hard time for foreigners to go in there. Which country? Other countries have poverty, they have this, it's very difficult for people just uproot themselves, take the whole family, leave all the belongings behind, and just go to the next country. And then it also goes against the, when you face tests in life, you have to be able to have patience and be steadfast. You can't just cut and run every time there's some difficulties there.
We say Jazakallahu khairan, and it's a very important point. And this is one of the proofs and evidences that the people on the second side use. They say that the first view that states that it's mandatory and obligatory, they say isn't practical, especially in the 20th or the 21st century. They say that it's unpractical. In other words, what Muslim country or Islamic country, because that's a long discussion in itself, what makes a country a Muslim country? What makes a country an Islamic country? They say, what country is opening up its doors for the Muslims? Saudi Arabia says no, Yemen says no, Nigeria says no, this part, that place, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. Everybody understand this? So this is one of the roadblocks that they say lies in the path of your argument. And we know that whenever an opinion or view is very difficult to be practiced and to be put into physical action, then it is a type of feebleness in the argument. If your view is correct, that would mean this and that, which is a major hardship. So this is what those ulama, some of them, they say. Okay, but there's a refutation to that as well. And the refutation that they say is, first and foremost, they say these countries only shut their doors for immigrants from the West after the political change in the world. And after the Muslims became so comfortable and so laid back with living under the care of the non-Muslims. Everybody understand this? That's firstly. Secondly, some of them say that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Hijrah is going to remain until the Day of Judgment. There's always going to be Hijrah as long as there's Tawbah. And Tawbah will remain until the sun rises from the west. So they say whether you know the country or not, whether it's easy or not, they say there is a way, one way or another, for you to make Hijrah to at least a better land, let alone an Islamic or Muslim country, one way or another. And thirdly, last but not least, they say, some of those ulama, they say, just because everybody's not going to do it, doesn't mean that it isn't the ruling. Just because everybody isn't going to do it, doesn't mean that it isn't the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. Everybody understand this? Drugs. How many people in the world abuse drugs? Millions, if not more than that. Every race, every color, every religion, every gender, sex, ethnicity, one way or another, people use drugs. One type of drug or the next. People, cocaine, marijuana, heroin, alcohol, cigarettes, the list goes on. One type of drug is used by people in the East, people in the West. So just because people are not going to stop smoking drugs or stop smoking cigarettes, that doesn't mean that the people in my country, we're not going to wage war against drugs. You see this in America. Somebody may say, why are you fighting a crime on drugs? People are going to keep smoking drugs. You might as well legalize drugs because people are never ever going to stop intoxicating themselves. That doesn't mean that it's unlawful in our legislation. Everybody understand this? It doesn't mean that. You see what I'm saying? Just because the people aren't going to stop or the people aren't going to do it, that does not necessarily change the ruling. Everybody clear on this? So as I said to you before, these are what? Sheikh Nazib said, two views of the ulama. Two views of the ulama. You yourself, you want to have to pick and do that which you feel is best. And that which makes the most sense to you. Naam. And that which, and most important, which is the most practical. That which is what? The most practical. What is important is for us to understand the seriousness of the topic. Everybody understand this? And there lies no doubt. The ulama who hold the first view, they have a very strong argument. And from the strongest of their arguments is the effect that the Muslims face, or the Muslims have, the effects that are upon the Muslims who live in these societies, as we saw today and as we see on a daily basis. And there's so many aspects of Islam that are affected through the whole modern world and secularism and so on and so forth. In other words, why are Muslims so apologetic? Why are Muslims always distorting, and it really doesn't mean this and it really doesn't mean that? Do you think the Muslims would have made those same apologetic interpretations back in the times of the lands of the Muslims? Of course they wouldn't. No way. They would have said the Prophet ﷺ had this amount of wives and that's why. Accept it or reject it. They would have said this hadith means this and it means that and it's literal, and that's what it is. But now you're living under the protection of non-Muslims. You're funded by non-Muslims. Hospital, every aspect of life is being dictated to you by someone who doesn't have your faith. There lies no doubt you're going to have a total different understanding of Islam.
And to confirm the point that you're making, and I've made a statement that if we can practice this religion, and as we come towards the end of our life, we go into a hospital, you're given haram food, you're exposed, you have no Quran, you have nothing. So that part we call migration. We migrated to this country, and I've known a lot of people who have given up their 5 namaz, their beard, they change their names. But the most important thing and the point is that we have become too apologetic. We keep apologizing, we keep changing, we keep... And this is one of the points that we need.
Thank you. Very good point. Uncle MT.
Someone were saying, I mean, I was thinking before to...
And before we go on, brothers and sisters, excuse me, before we go on, as we always do in this class, I didn't give you my opinion. So don't think that I'm supporting the first or the second. I'm just a presenter of information. That's it. That's my job. Tabligh is to convey. No. To make tabligh. To convey. That's my job. To pass on the message. So therefore, I don't want no one to feel that I'm bashing or throwing an opinion down your face. No. We convey. We tabligh. Muballigh. We convey. We convey. As Allah says in the Quran. We convey. Naam. Alhamdulillah.
So one size shoe doesn't fit all. You know, I mean, it depends on which country you come from, which country you go back to. Some Muslims were saying there's a lot of Muslims in the Middle East, in some countries, but very little Islam. There's a few Muslims in the West, but a lot of Islam. Some were saying because of political pressure of Muslims in the practice of their deen in a Muslim country, whereas we have more of a freedom of practicing your deen in a Western country. So I would think it depends on the particular country and the particular situation you're in, and which country you're referring to in Muslim land that is, you can have practice of deen.
Uncle Imtiaz, Jazakallah khairan. It's a very important point that the ulama on the second side use. And they say this. They say that how things are today are not how they were back then. Okay? And there are many quote-unquote Muslim countries or Islamic countries, and we're not going into no issues of takfir, not tonight at least. Maybe that was last night. Not tonight. They say what? They say that some of these quote-unquote Muslim countries are no longer Muslim countries because of their ideals, their practices, and also the actual legislation that they make. The bylaws of the country, the constitution of the country, they say isn't the Sharia anymore. So this is another side of the argument. And some people say that it's more beneficial for you to remain here, and look how many Muslims are in America. So as we said before, it can go both ways. Those ulama, they have their views, they have their proofs and evidences, and they have their, what we call in Arabic, wajahat an-nadhar. Wajahat an-nadhar is their ways of analyzing the situation. And it's more than a way of looking at it. Everybody understand this? Somebody may say, just because you can pray and fast and make hajj, wear hijab, having a beard, so on and so forth, they may say, is that all that Islam is? And some Muslims, they think that. Well, we can practice Islam. Is that all that Islam is? Or is there more to Islam than that? And then other people, they may say, in Morocco or Tunisia or Algeria, I can't even pray in the masjid. I can't pray in congregation unless I have a specific ID card. There's countries, some not all countries, and some of those things are lies, because I've been to some of those countries and it's not like that. But there are some countries in which if you go to the mosque 5 times a day, they say he's a terrorist. He's an extremist. He's a fundamentalist. I don't think there's a place like that in America that someone's going to harass you from going to the mosque. So there's no doubt. It can go what? It can go both ways. And some people, they can have their arguments, and they can prove their points for the obligation or not. Everybody clear on this? So this is, I feel before we stop, because I had much more prepared to give you guys, but there isn't enough time. I feel that what we're doing here, inshallah, is very healthy for us all. To sit, to talk, and to discuss, debate. It's not just me speaking, me giving you a lecture, but I want to hear from you guys as well. Maybe you give me a benefit, maybe I give you a benefit. Everybody understand this? To critically think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Sheikh, I just want to,
Fadal.
this is a normal thing. I know Allah is going to reward you according to your intention. There's a lot of people migrate because this is sin. like I'm talking about Guyana, they migrate to different parts of the world with the intention that it's going to benefit their children educationally wise and economic gain. I want to know, I mean, I know this is how I know it too. If one migrate for deen, alhamdulillah, but if you migrate for dunya, I don't know how to look at that up on that.
Right. It's a very important part of the argument as well. And it's something that we have to be real with ourselves regarding. There are many Muslims who say, I left Egypt, I left Palestine, I left this country, I left that country because of the oppression of the ruler. Because of this, because of that, so on and so forth. And there's some people who actually did. They were oppressed, tortured. I've met people from different countries. I met a man when I was in Yemen once. He was from Iraq. Okay, he was a big brother. And he told me some stories and he showed me some things. He was abused and beaten and electrocuted and hung upside down, and all kinds of horrific things were done to this man. So he left Iraq and he went to Yemen. So there are some Muslims who do flee from physical oppression. There are some Muslims, and this is a reality, I'm going to be open and frank. He may come from a village in Bangladesh. His father's a Muslim, his grandfather's a Muslim, his great-grandfather's a Muslim, and he comes to New York City and he learns more about Tawheed and the Sunnah than in a Muslim country. This is a reality. This is real. It's real. It's not a fairy tale. This is a haqiqah, yani. However, there are other Muslims, they say that they make hijrah, but they only make hijrah for money. They only make hijrah for dunya. Which is not, yani, the concept of, if you're traveling to go somewhere for a better life or for money, that's one thing. Can't say that's not something haram. But don't, as you say, fake the funk. Don't fake the funk. You didn't leave Egypt. This is not against people from Egypt. This is just an example. You didn't leave Egypt because of the Egyptian president. That's a lie. You didn't leave Egypt because you couldn't pray, you couldn't practice. You left Egypt and you came to America for the dollar bill. There's no doubt about that. Whether you're a doctor or a scholar from Azhar or whatever. So a lot of Muslims, they lie to themselves and they lie to others. You made hijrah for dunya. So don't act like your hijrah was Islamic because it wasn't Islamic. It has nothing to do with Egypt. Wherever you come from. Everybody understand this? So that's another aspect. Is it permissible to leave a Muslim land for non-Muslim land for fulus? That's firstly. And secondly is, a brother said to me once, he was from the UK, he was originally from Pakistan, a friend of mine, and we started laughing and joking around, and he started talking about the UK and the Queen and Britain and London and Birmingham, so on and so forth. So I made a joke and I said, you're loyal to your Queen. He says, yeah, that's right, I am loyal to my Queen. My Queen has done more for me than Pakistan has. My Queen has done more for the Muslims than what Pakistan has done for the Muslims. I said, okay, no problem. He said to me, he said, what? He said, hospitals and diseases and sickness and healthcare, everything is provided for me when I go back to Birmingham. And it's not like that in Pakistan. Maybe. I said to him, how many Muslims in Pakistan had cancer, diabetes, this disease, this sickness, this illness, this problem, that problem? In other words, the modern world gives you certain things because of certain things that it is giving you.
Sure, very true.
Healthcare and all these things. In other words, in your rural place, or you may not be from a rural place, there's cities in Pakistan or wherever, Guyana, people didn't have the problem with diabetes like they have in New York City. So there was no need for all of those big modern hospitals. Everybody understand this? There was no need for you to have this type of degree and that type of degree because the rent was not $2,000, $5,000, $4,000 a month. There was no need to. So you think that you're getting something, but in actuality, you're getting what? Everybody understand this? So that's a whole nother spin on the situation. Back home, life was simple, was easy, and it was basic. It was comfortable. I didn't need to have a security system on my house and my car. I need to have this and I need to have that. You come to America, now it's what? Sky-high prices, criminals, mental perversion, sexual perversion, all of these things, they didn't exist in your country. So don't think that it's just a sweet slice of pie that you get and that's it. Bismillah. No. You give and you take. And all of these things have to be considered and making a thorough ruling. As you mentioned, Uncle MTS, one size doesn't fit what? Doesn't fit all. So you have to be careful on this concept. Now, the issue of hijrah, brothers and sisters, I'm sorry, Sheikh.
I'm going to take some questions from the sisters. The brothers can hold on.
This issue, before we stop, we say what? This issue is a very important issue. And hopefully, bi'idhnillah, in the near future, we'll have time to speak on it more. Like I said, there's many other aspects, especially the spiritual hijrah that I wanted to talk about in more time, but we don't have that time. So we will stop here with the discussion on hijrah. I would like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. I would like to thank the administration of Masjid Ansar for inviting me back. Alhamdulillah, it's my pleasure. Wallahi, it's my honor. And I'm very happy to be here. And last but not least, I'll thank all of the brothers and sisters for their participation and your discussion and beneficial words. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Yeah, sisters, if you have any question, you can pass it around, inshallah. Or else we're going to go direct into the other hijrah of eating, inshallah. Okay.
Fadl.
What is your opinion on hijrah?
Sheikh, once we read the system, right? Isn't it, the first opinion is that it's an obligation.
Obligation, unconditional obligation.
Unconditional.
Yes.
Isn't that the safest? We have to find ways to migrate. We have to fulfill our obligation.
We say that whenever there are two views of the ulama, one view says that something is preferable, and one view states that if you don't do it, you get sin and anger from Allah. There lies no doubt safety lies in following the view that states what? That it's wajib. It's safety in following the view that says it's what? It's wajib. Now, that's a long, long argument with regards to seeking Allah's rizq. In America, this job is haram, that job is haram, I can't be this, I can't do that, this is unlawful, this is free mixing. One may say it's no way of finding halal. And that's not necessarily true. And one may also say, I can't make hijrah. No country wants us. It's poverty, so on and so forth. That is not always true. And also the concept of poverty. Is poverty everything that matters to you in life? Is the dunya the biggest thing in life? Not saying that you don't like money or I don't like money. But the concept of just how we look at things. That is not necessarily the means of success. How much money you have. And there lies no doubt there could be someone that could live in a hut. That could be happier, have a better life, peace of mind, than someone who lives in a high-rise condo in Manhattan. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with that. Not saying that you don't have to make hijrah, but just the concept of physical, monetary means, material things, does not make you happy. Happiness is from Allah, whether you have money or whether you don't. As for my opinion on hijrah, then it's not obligatory for me to tell you. I've done more than what was obligatory upon me. I've given you the views of the ulama, with the proofs, with the evidences, with the points of views. I've given more than what was upon me to give. You don't need my opinion. What does my opinion matter when it comes to the opinion of the people of knowledge? Alhamdulillah.
Ashik.
What would become of Najasi? What would become of
King Najasi, you talk.
Najasa?
Najashi?
Oh, Najashi.
So what will become of him?
Question is, what will become of Najashi? We say, in Bukhari Muslim, Najashi radiallahu anhu died upon Islam. He accepted the deen. And the Prophet ﷺ, he and the companions, they made the janazah prayer on him.
Right.
Yes, Najashi died as a Muslim. He wasn't necessarily a companion because he didn't physically meet the Prophet ﷺ. But he died upon Islam and upon righteousness. And this is just an interesting fact here. This is not no this or for that. Just it's an interesting fact. The reality is the reality is. It's a book that I had once, and the name of the book is called Tarikh al-Islami fi Ifriqiya, or fi al-Qarat al-Ifriqiya. It's on the history of Islam in the African continent. And the author of the book is in Arabic, he said that Africa, or at least the Horn of Africa, Northeast Africa, was the very first place that enjoyed the light of Islam. And it was the very first place that honored the Muslims. So Najashi and many others, they had accepted Islam and they were righteous Muslims. So he died upon Islam. He didn't die upon Christianity. Wallahu alam.
Inshallah.
Hold on.
When you want to make hijrah and make it sensible, does it become haram? Let's say wherever you go, you're not able to make that need. Does it become haram or go back to where you left? And you have to make the intention to go there?
The question is, when a person makes hijrah, is it unlawful to go back to his original country or the place from which he made hijrah, we say that when a person leaves with the sole intention, the decisive intention, the firm, resolute intention of making hijrah, he should not go back to that country with the intention of living. And there are many hadiths that speak on this, such as the people who went from Medina to Mecca to make Hajj after the conquest of Mecca, and many things like this. They are to remain in the place of hijrah. However, if something happens, a financial crisis, someone becomes extremely ill, extremely sick, la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah never puts on a soul more than that soul can bear. So nothing is haram at the time of necessity and compulsion. And nothing is obligatory at the time of physical incapability, physical weakness. When you can't do it, there is no wajib. Wallahu ta'ala alam.